Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajaka Jai Ashtadhar Shadha Shri Srimad Bhagavatam Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajaka Jai Ashtadhar Shadha Shri Srimad Bhagavatam Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Gangai Manamai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, titled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 20, The Structure of the Universe. Today's verse is text 6, and we have 17 written on the board because that's the next verse we could chant. So, no. So I guess I'll just read 6 through 17, or 6 through 16, and then we could chant 17. All right. So this is 526. O king, longevity, sensory prowess, physical and mental strength, intelligence, and bravery are naturally and equally manifested in all the inhabitants of the 5 islands headed by Plakshadweep. Plakshadweep is surrounded by an ocean of sugarcane juice, equal in breadth to the island itself. Similarly, there is then another island, Salmalidweep, twice as broad as Plakshadweep, 400,000 yojanas, or what is it? 3,200,000 miles, and surrounded by an equally broad body of water called Sarasagara, the ocean that tastes like liquor. Ocean that tastes like liquor. On Salmalidweep, there is a Shalmali tree from which the island takes its name. That tree is as broad and tall as the Plaksha tree. In other words, 100 yojanas, 800 miles broad, and 1,100 yojanas, 8,800 miles tall. Learned scholars say that this gigantic tree is the residence of Garuda, the king of all birds and carrier of Lord Vishnu. In that tree, Garuda offers Lord Vishnu his Vedic prayers. The son of Maharaj Priyavrata, named Yagyabahu, the master of Salmalidweep, divided the island into 7 tracts of land, which he gave to his 7 sons. The names of those divisions, which correspond to the names of the sons, are Surochana, Salmanasya, Ramanaka, Devavarsha, Paribhadra, Apyayana, and Avigyata. In those tracts of land there are 7 mountains: Sarasa, Shatashringa, Vamadev, Kunda, Mukunda, Pushpavarsha, and Sahasrashruti. There are also 7 rivers: Anumati, Sinivali, Saraswati, Kuhu, Rajani, Nanda, and Raka. They are still existing. Strictly following the cult of Varnashram Dharma, the inhabitants of those islands, who are known as Shrutidaras, Viryadaras, Vasundaras, and Ishandaras, all worship the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead named Soma, the moon god. The inhabitants of Shalmaladweep worship the demigod of the moon in the following words. By his own rays, the moon god has divided the month into fortnights. Divided the month into 2 fortnights, known as Shukla and Krishna, for the distribution of food grains to the Pitas and the demigods. The demigod of the moon is he who divides time, and he is the king of all the residents of the universe. We therefore pray that he may remain our king and guide, and we offer him our respectful obeisances. Okay. Outside the ocean of liquor is another island known as Kushadweep, which is 800,000 yojanas, 6,400,000 miles wide, twice as wide as the ocean of liquor. As Shalmaladweep is surrounded by a liquor ocean, Kushadweep is surrounded by an ocean of liquid ghee, as broad as the island itself. On Kushadweep there are clumps of kusha grass from which the island takes its name. This kusha grass, which was created by the demigods by the will of the Supreme Lord, appears like a second form of fire, but with very mild and pleasing flames. Its young shoots illuminate all directions. Purport. This is a small purport here. From the descriptions of this verse, we can make an educated guess about the nature of the flames on the moon. Like the sun, the moon must also be full of flames, because without flames there cannot be illumination. The flames on the moon, however, unlike those on the sun, must be mild and pleasing. This is our conviction. The modern theory That the moon is full of dust is not accepted in the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. In regard to this verse, Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura says, Sushupani sukomala shikastesham rochisha. The kusha grass illuminates all directions, but its flames are very mild and pleasing. This gives some idea of the flames existing on the moon. All right, we'll read a couple more. O king, another son of Maharaj Priyavrata, Hiranya-reta, was the king of this island. He divided it into 7 parts, which he delivered to his 7 sons according to the rights of inheritance. The king then retired from family life to engage in austerities. The names of those sons are Vasu, Vasudhana, Dhridaruchi, Stutyavrata, Nabhigupta, Vivikta, and Vamadev. In those 7 islands, there are 7 boundary mountains known as Chakra, Chatushringa, Kapila, Chitrakuta, Devanika, Urdhvaroma, and Dravina. There are also 7 rivers known as Ramakulya, Madhukulya, and Mitravinda, Shrutavinda, and Devagarbha, Grithachuta, and Mantramala. Text 16. The inhabitants of the island of Kushadweep are celebrated as Kushalas, Kovidas, Abhiyuktas, and Kulakas. They're like the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, respectively. By bathing in the waters of those rivers, they all become purified. They're expert in performing ritualistic ceremonies according to the orders of the Vedic scriptures. Thus, they worship the Lord in his aspect as the demigod of fire. All right, this is text 17. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Parasya Brahmanaha Saksaj Jatavedo Si Havyavat Devanam Purushanganam Yagnena Purusham Yajeti Parasya Brahmana Sakshaj Jatavedo Sihavyavat Devanam Purushanganam Yagnena Purusham. How's it? Yagnena Purusham Yajeti Parasya Brahmana Sakshaj Jatavedo Sihavyavat Devanam Purushaganam Yagnena Purusham Yajeti Parasya Brahmana Sakshaj Jataveda Sihavyavat Devanam Purushaganam Yagnena Purusham Yajeti. Prasya of the Supreme, Brahmanaha, Brahman, Sakshat, directly, Jatavedaha, O fire god. Asi, you are Havyavat, the carrier of Vedic offerings of grains and ghee. Devanam, of all the demigods. Purusha Anganam, who are limbs of the Supreme Person. Yajnana, by performing the ritualistic sacrifices. Purusham, to the Supreme Person. Yaja, please carry oblations. Iti, thus. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is the mantra by which the inhabitants of Kushadweep worship the fire god. O fire god, you are a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, and you carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore we request you to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead the yognic ingredients we are offering the demigods, for the Lord is the real enjoyer. Purport. The demigods are servants who assist the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one worships the demigods as servants of the Supreme, carry the sacrificial offerings to the Lord, like tax collectors collecting revenue from the citizens and bringing it to the government's treasury. The demigods cannot accept the sacrificial offerings. They simply carry the offerings to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura, yasya prasādād, bhagavat-prasādaḥ. Since the Guru is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he carries to the Lord whatever is offered to him. Similarly, all the demigods, as faithful servants of the Supreme Lord, hand over to the Supreme Lord whatever is offered to them in sacrificial performances. There is no fault in worshiping the demigods with this understanding. But to think that the demigods are independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and equal to him is called hṛta-jñāna, a loss of intelligence. Kāmais hṛta-jñāna, one who thinks that the demigods themselves are the actual benefactors is mistaken. Oh, Krishna. Om Gyanativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshudhanmalitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karidivachalam Pungam Langai Tegadim Yakipatamaham Vande Shri Gurundini Taranam Vancha Kalpadribhishcha Kripasandabhibhcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gauda Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, translation again. This is the mantra by which the inhabitants of Kushadweep worship the fire god. O fire god, you are part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, and you can carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore we request you to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead the yognic ingredients we are offering the demigods, for the Lord is the real enjoyer. So the similarity we see between all modes of worship is that it is meant to be an offering. Like, for example, in deity worship, the devotees who worship the deities means the devotees who directly worship the deities, that go onto the altar and means personally worship the deities, or by going on the altar and dressing them and offering arati and so on. It is an offering. They're making an offering. They're offering their time. They're offering their energy. They're offering their body, right, mind, flowers. They're trying to decorate Krishna. And if you look at, for example, yagyas, fire yagyas, it's an offering. Again, it's engaging body, mind, and words, and meditation on Krishna, serving Krishna. If you look at meditation, right, it's all about that, right? You're meditating, trying to focus on Krishna. The chanting of the holy names, it's an offering. We're offering our body, mind, words, our self into the fire of chanting the holy names. So it's all an offering. That's the similarity. Yajna. But the yajna has to be done in full knowledge, or you could say full consciousness, to get the best result. There's a difference between doing deity worship in full consciousness and chanting the holy names and meditating and offering yajnas and so on in full consciousness and doing it in otherwise. There's a difference. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada would stress that devotees have to strive, yati, they have to strive to transcend all of the different platforms of consciousness one could be on. Right? Sensual, mental, intellectual, right? To go into the spiritual platform. And we see that if somebody is not able to rise to the spiritual platform, at least sometimes, and steadily stay on that platform, Krishna consciousness is very difficult without that. For example, people come to the Hare Krishna movement many times, if not all times, on the sensual platform. They're sensually attractive. Okay, their mind is attractive, their intellect is attractive, sure. I'm not saying an absolute statement here, but people think, great music, right? I really like that drum. Or tasty food, really like that, the taste on my tongue, right? Or that's really awesome incense, right? It's just smelling, tasting, right? Now, of course, this isn't to at all comment on the pure nature of these things. These things are pure. They're offered to Krishna. The incense, the kirtan, the prasadam. But for somebody who's come to the Hare Krishna movement on the traction of the sensual platform, it's sensually stimulating. And we see that if someone stays on, or someone tries to continue in Krishna consciousness on that level alone, yeah, the drum's really nice, the prasad's really nice, and they can't. They can't, because they'll be walking by a drum circle and think those drums are very nice, and they'll be walking by a farmer's market, and they're cooking a bunch of stuff out there. They'll think that's nice. They'll be sensually attracted to that, and because they're not convinced on the mental platform, intellectual platform, they can't continue. So therefore, they leave. Just like Srila Prabhupada gave that example of one young boy walking with him and the devotees on Venice Beach. And he was walking with Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees, and the boy became distracted by what are those things? Like a scorpion on the beach, something like that. And then the boy kind of went there and he's looking, and just his senses too sensually, agitated, just looking, and then Prabhupada commented on it, how whimsical it was, and then Prabhupada told the devotees, so he's not going to last very long, and he didn't. He left shortly after. So okay, people become attracted on the sensual platform, fine. Good that they become attracted. But then they have to be like the mental platform. Mental platform, we think of the mental platform as the mind. We usually think of the mind acceptance and rejecting and accepting. This is the business of the mind, right? It's a whole menu going on: reject, accept, reject, accept. So, coming to the mental platform, Hare Krishna to you, both. Good morning to you. We're going to have a class now until about 8:30, and then afterwards we'll be serving breakfast, so if you could stay, that'd be nice. But we won't hold it against you if you don't. But so the mental platform, accepting and rejecting. So on the platform of the mental platform, we're thinking, oh, should I accept Krishna consciousness? Should I reject it? Right? Is it pleasing to my senses? It's kind of a mix of the sensual and mental platform. Is it pleasing to my senses? Okay, it's not pleasing to my senses and mind. Let me reject it. It's no longer satisfying me. The prasadam isn't that good these days. Need some better cooks, right? The mridanga player's not up to par, right? So accepting and rejecting. And then we have the intellectual platform. If we become convinced intellectually, that's very good. If we become convinced intellectually that Krishna consciousness is good, I need to engage in it. Although we may not have a huge amount of taste or attraction for it, or at least for some of the aspects of Krishna consciousness, because generally people have some attraction to at least some aspects of Krishna consciousness, just like people come here and they love the kirtan, but when the class starts they run away. Like, the kirtan's really great, and as soon as someone sits on the big seat, they run out of the temple room and they're talking about God knows what on the patio. Which, okay, fine. It's good they love the kirtan. It's great. And I hope that they get attraction to the class, because that's also important. Tukaram Prabhu mentions often that the Krishna kirtan, according to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura, the Krishna kirtan represents Krishna, and the class represents Srimati Radharani. Interesting. It's an important aspect. So to become convinced intellectually that, okay, the process is good, and to have some attraction to some of the aspects of it is good. But we're still on the intellectual platform in that we don't have heavy attraction or deep attraction for the different processes of devotional service, although we're convinced it's good for us, and therefore we should do it. The spiritual platform, we transcended these platforms, and we may be engaged. We are engaged in the same things, or the same aspects of Krishna consciousness that others are engaged in, but they may be engaged on the sensual platform, mental platform, intellectual platform. But on the spiritual platform, we're engaged in the same activities, but for a different reason. We are seeing things in relation to Krishna. We are seeing things in relation to Krishna's pleasure, not in relation to our own pleasure, sensual, mental, intellectual. We want to please Krishna and the spiritual master, and that is ultimately the platform in which real yajna could take place. How can someone on the sensual platform, on the mental platform, on the intellectual platform, how can they perform real yajna? Because they're not in the mood of yajna. They're in the mood of more or less gratification of their own desires. They have their own plans, right, for enjoyment in Krishna consciousness. So to develop the consciousness of yajna is to ultimately rise to the spiritual platform. And of course, sometimes we rise to the spiritual platform, and sometimes we drop. We go to the spiritual platform, and then all of a sudden, intellectual, mental, sensual, and then from sensual to to be steady on one platform. Of course, some people are steady on one platform or another, but generally there's a lot of jumping around, just like the modes of material nature, right? They're always competing they're always competing which one's going to win. So, but to mean to surrender to Krishna under the spiritual master means to strive to always be on the spiritual platform, and ultimately to rise to that platform and just stay there, stay on the spiritual platform. So this is what Srila Prabhupada stressed many times, that we should perform yajna, sacrifice for the spiritual master, yasya prasādād bhagavat-prasādaḥ. By serving the spiritual master, one pleases Krishna. And this Srila Prabhupada is saying in relation to today's verse, that the inhabitants of Kusha Dweep, their worship of the fire god, you're the part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore, we request you to offer to the Supreme Personality of God the yogic ingredients we're offering to the demigods, for the Lord is the real enjoyer. So the demigods, they're passing the offering to Krishna. And similarly, when we offer things to the spiritual master, everything should be an offering to our spiritual master. He passes it on to the parampara, to Krishna. And by pleasing the spiritual master, yasya prasādād bhagavat-prasādaḥ, yasya prasādād nakadikatopi, then we can please Krishna. Therefore, everyone should have a spiritual master, diksha and shiksha, gurus. Everyone should have, because without a spiritual master, how are we going to please Krishna? None of this Vik business, which we won't get into, but it doesn't work. So one should try to sincerely get initiated as soon as possible, better sooner than later, and not just get initiated, but after that make one's life a yajna, whether one is a householder, a grihasta, vanaprastha, or sannyas. Not that one should think, oh, I am a grihasta, that means I have a license for sense gratification, that means I could gratify my senses a lot more than the brahmacharis or sannyasis or vanaprasthas. One should still be in the mood of yajna. Yes, there may be some license of some more sense gratification, but that doesn't mean one should not be in the mood of yajna. One should be in the mood of yajna. Always, in every ashram. Every ashram should be performed, the duties should be performed in the mood of a yajna, sacrifice. Or else, one cannot be in the mood of yajna, but then the progress is slow. It's slowed down. And Prabhupada says there's no fault in worshiping the demigods with this understanding, but to think that the demigods are independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and equal to him is called hṛta-jñāna, a loss of intelligence. So somebody who is lacking intelligence, they cannot see things in the proper perspective. Just like if someone gets in a fight with somebody, right? Because generally when anger is into the picture, right, enters the picture, intelligence leaves the picture. But and usually both parties are angry. That's what it means to fight, generally speaking. So it's hard to make intelligent conclusions or decisions based on just so therefore you need a third person to step in and say, okay, hey, but they can't see the full picture. So similarly, those who just worship in the demigods and forgetting that Krishna is the supreme boss, they're lacking intelligence, right? What's his name? Karta, what's it, the boss? Yeah, he's the boss. Krishna's the supreme boss. So by the chanting of Hare Krishna, by engaging in the process of yagya, by pleasing the spiritual master, we will gradually see things in the proper perspective, and therefore we'll be able to actually be guides to others. Because how Yaridekata ka Krishna Upadesh, how is someone going to be a guru if they can't see properly? They have to see properly. And Lord Chaitanya says that all devotees should, in this way or that way, be a guru. So, but to be a guru, they have to see properly, which means they have to engage in yagya properly, they have to do all the aspects of Krishna consciousness properly, and then they'll be able to see properly, and therefore guide properly. So, which is the challenge. All right, does anybody have any questions? Yes, Srivada Prabhu?
I have a genuine question that I'm puzzled about.
All right.
The verse that we finally read, we chanted together, the inhabitants of Kushidvipa are offering the fire god, and they're saying, you carry to him, the Lord, all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore, we request you to offer the Lord the yogic ingredients you are offering, and demigod, for the Lord is the real enjoyer. All right, well, that's a clear principle. Just like a tax collector doesn't spend the money, he takes it. But I mean, I'm just thinking of Indra.
Mm-hmm.
When Indra became upset because the sacrifice was, he wasn't upset, oh, I'm not going to get the offerings to carry to Krishna, so therefore I'm upset. Mm-hmm. No, he was upset because he wasn't getting the offerings. So is it possible, like, it seems like the demigods can also lose that, the train,
Yeah. If one is not 100% pure devotee of Krishna, which is not an easy task, means not an easy platform to be on, then there is tendencies to, like Śrīla Prabhupada said, his motto was, everything for Krishna, nothing for me. And then he said that was his motto. Now, if one's not 100% pure, then they say, okay, well, some for Krishna, some for me, right? Like, or some for me, some for my guru. All right, some people are praising me. All right, I'll take some of that praise and I'll give some to my guru, But we should pass it all, not just some. We should pass it all to the guru, to Krishna. But again, if one's not 100% pure, then there could be a tendency. Therefore, it has to be controlled. So, to be a Goswami means to control it. Means that, okay, should be able to check those things. Maybe should be able to check the speech, right? Should be able to check the urges of the senses, urges of the mind. Because, okay, so first it's the mind and then it's the speech, right? Because you're thinking something, you say something. So if such tendencies sprout up, you say no. Goswami says no, this is not right, and I'm passing it to my guru. I'm not taking this, the respect. But sometimes you can see the demigods and others, they're not perfect Goswamis. And it's hard to find a perfect Goswami, somebody who's always able to check. The demigods may be able to check most of the time. Like if you look at the span of a demigod's life, also it's a long span, it's like it's like the Goswamis of ISKCON or the Goswamis of the Hare Krishna movement. They have a relatively short span to, check themselves, from 20 to whatever it is, however long they live, right? But demigods have a longer span, it's like, so there's more opportunity to mess things up, to make mistakes. But to err is human, and to err is apparently demigod as well. So yeah, that is a tendency with the demigods we see. But it's also a great example for us. Great personalities make mistakes. As Śrīla Prabhupada said, Lord Shiva, Also, he was bewildered, right? Of course, it was a special pastime of Mohini Murti and so on, but you got Lord Brahma, which, interesting enough, Prabhupada said in the Bhagavatam, Krishna appeared to Brahma and said, "You will not fall into illusion." And then later on, he had some unlawful attraction, right, to his own offspring. So, so these are great personalities. So they make mistakes. What to speak of others? So it means it's a warning, like a warning sign. Warning, warning. So we have to be very careful, because to err is human, and that's a tendency. So be very careful. I don't know if that. Maybe you have more.
Yeah, well, the idea is that the demigods are generally sakama yogis,
yes.
and Indra is the perfect example of that. But then while you were speaking, another verse came to mind, which adds to the interest of the whole thing, and that is that yatatado mulana shechanena, that if you offer everything to Krishna, then the demigods automatically become satisfied.
Yeah.
That's the idea, that you don't have to worship the demigods separately.
Yeah.
So that's in their Krishna conscious state. Yes, we're satisfied. Krishna's getting what he needs. We don't have to get us.
Tyler, you have... Dravida, you hit on a major question I was going to ask. But before I do, so akama, kama, and sakama. Can you define sakama? The demigods are sakama?
Yes, sakama it means with material desire.
Yeah, okay.
Akama means without that.
So,
sa means with, means without, right?
And then kama is just that
means desire. Yeah.
So, the analogy of like when I'm Bhagavatam class is my favorite part of the day, unless we're like in your room reading, And it's like riding a horse, and sometimes the horse jumps, and that's something I'm interested in. That's like a question. So I was actually keyed in on what Dravida was saying. I had a question for you, but it's like a metaphor. My stepfather is a mailman. His name's Mike the mailman. He had a route for 20 years, and they loved him. So on Christmas, he'd come home for days and days and days with all these gifts that the route would give him. But he's a mailman, so he's dispassionately giving people paychecks, court appearances, bills.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'd show up, and they would literally be waiting at the door. Please, do you have the thing I'm looking for? But to him, it's just mail. He just has a duty just to deliver it.
Yeah.
So the question I had that I think maybe got answered is, then he brought up another question. If we go right to Krishna directly with our service, do the demigods still have to like they sprinkle a little tulsi on it at the end? But also, do the demigods enjoy what they're bringing to Krishna, whether it's a little bit or a lot? Do they have a personal interest in what they're bringing to Krishna? Because I think my stepfather liked giving someone a Christmas package more than a jury summon, but he has to deliver both.
Well, I mean, Srila Prabhupada said that the spiritual master is like a postman or a post peon. He's just delivering the message. Now, there is a dispassionate aspect to that. Means he delivers the message, and if people like it, they like, and if they don't, they don't. So it's dispassion in the sense that he's not attached to whether people like it or not. In other words, he's not trying to win a popularity contest. Guru doesn't try to win a popularity contest. He just speaks the truth. And if people like it, they could stay, and if they don't, they could run away or go somewhere else. But you could say that the Guru takes pleasure, spiritual pleasure, spiritual happiness, and performing that postman duty to deliver the message to others. They take great pleasure. That is their pleasure. That is their pleasure, delivering the message. So the demigods, if they're acting as postman or whatever to Krishna, then it seems that they would also take pleasure in it. Of course, when you start getting, a crooked mailman or mailman with kind of, motives or something, then start looking in the mail. Hey, I could use that, and open up the Amazon box. I could actually use this. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna put something else in there, Or, anyways, it could get really weird, But in the pure state, yeah, they do take pleasure in that. So I know that doesn't probably exactly hit on your question, but that's how I wanted to answer it.
If I may ask my question now?
Yes.
I had something for Saul. Saul has a question too, but I wanted to. You talked about that third-party, dispassionate person to enter.
Yes. I had to be that person a number of times.
That's my question. You are that for us, Prabhu, so often, and you do it expertly. So can you talk about the mood one should have for that? Or I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, you already did.
Okay. And you're expert at it, Prabhu. That's why we come to you with the issues.
Well, that service is not for everyone. Not all service is for everyone, and that's not bad. I mean, everybody has different natures that make everything go on. Not that everyone could be a, dispassionate counselor type, then the whole movement would fall apart, right? Have a bunch of dispassionate counselors, and what's going to happen to the Hare Krishna movement? But there has to be some kind of in that role. But if we are having to take that role in some cases, which in some cases we may have to do that, whether we like it or not, the principle is we want to hear both sides, hear them out, and not take sides based on liking or disliking a particular person, or liking or disliking the characteristics of a certain person, or whatever. But we just want to hear them both out and objectively say what you think should be said for the benefit of both parties. It's kind of like being in like a position of a judge. You have to but the judge is supposed to be dispassionate. You're not supposed to pay off the judge, right? Like, hey, judge, I'll give you a bunch of money if you're on my side. So that's the challenge with management in general, is that we don't want to just, manage people in situations just for the benefit wholly and solely of whatever the situation, but we want to make sure the person doesn't sink. If you say, yeah, you should be just cook, just keep on cooking like every offering, for the next 3 months, and it's like, well, we might have to make other arrangements because that other person may sink in that situation. So sometimes people think others are bad managers because they kind of do things for the benefit of the person, maybe more so than others would do for the benefit of just the situation. But anyways, it's a whole complicated situation, and there's a bunch of seminars online you can look up. Devotee ones.
And if you have to pay off a judge to win your case, you're probably in the wrong.
Yes.
And then I'm going to pass the mic to Bhakti Saul. He said something very nice this morning, and I was going to use that as the premise for my question. Ravi Teja has been so nice to look out for Mani Bandhani's service, and he suggested that we expand our roles in the morning to Mani Bandhani's on the altar now, so he doesn't have enough time to do some of the things he'd been doing. So Bhakti Saul this morning trained me in how to set up the Guru Puja tray.
Nice.
And it was very sweet. And during that, Bhakti Saul made a very nice comment about an instruction that he had received, and I think that would be nice to talk about in terms of what that principle is. So you remember, Bhakti Saul, about learning all the... Remember that we should spend our time to learn all the services? Do you remember what you said?
Yeah.
You remember what you told me?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I told him, I was like, we're in Long Beach, and I took him around Prabhu's seminar, and he said, he was talking to me and Daniel, like when we were introducing everybody, and he said, oh, Brahmachari life, you guys should just, learn all the instruments and learn all the services.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice, and then I told that.
Yeah, it's important to learn all the different services because if one learns all the services and then they become a role of a management to some degree, you can be a head pujari or temple president or bhakti leader or something like that, or just senior devotee, then they have an understanding what's going on in all the different departments, how to cook a feast, what it takes, In other words, they could kind of empathize, is that the word? Or empathize, something, with the devotees And when needed, they could also step up and do, Like Prabhupada knew how to do everything. If Prabhupada was relying on someone to cook the feast, the Sunday feast, in the early days, there wouldn't be a feast. But Prabhupada knew. He was very expert in cooking. And he would cook, and then when Kirtananda and others were trained up, then Prabhupada let them do it. But he was doing it for a while. And also washing the pots. And then And then when this group of hippies, right, who were becoming devotees, they said, Swamiji, you need some help with the pot? Prabhupada said, yeah, I was waiting for you to ask. Right?
Yeah, so just in reference to Bhakta Saul's learning the different services. So here's something we can remember. The books. The books that we have, Prabhupada's books, right? They're all very sacred. So we know not to put them on the ground or on the floor. And also that includes the little sheets with the mantras on them and everything. So, and don't put them on a place where people sit also. So we may watch if someone puts it on, okay? And when we set up the petals and the garland and everything, we don't put the garland on the book. On Prabhupada, drape it over, okay? The only thing you can put on that book, is another book, sacred book. And you can put a Bhagavad Gita on top of Bhagavatam. So there's a little hint for everybody.
Yeah, okay. So?
Okay. I just had one question about the aspect of this demigod. So when you become a demigod, evidently you're a devotee, in a sense. Like, that's how you become elevated. And as they get this life of a demigod and they put in this position, they start trying to enjoy. But when do they ultimately surrender? Like when they have problems and they're like, okay, now Krishna, can you help me with my problems?
When the demons come?
Yeah, that's
Krishna,
what I was thinking too. When they're always anxious.
Well, they do call out to Krishna when the demons come, because sometimes they come into that realm, the suras. So they call out. That's what it means to be a sura. Sura means to call out to Krishna when there's problems. Asura doesn't call out to Krishna. Yeah, they don't call out to Krishna. The suras, they call out to Krishna. So Krishna's always there in the back of their mind to a degree, maybe. But because there's so much enjoyment there, I mean, sometimes devotees have a hard time in Southern California, or Hawaii. They have a hard time there, because there's just so much enjoyment. Like in Hawaii, there's so much good weed, right? So they say. But so what? but a lot of devotees can't say so what. There's like, wow, that's like, this is too much. This is like super. They're like drawn towards it. Helplessly, and then the sun, and then the clear water, and before you know it, they're just riding the waves of the material modes of nature. So, what to speak of in the heavenly planets? I mean, they think Hawaii is good, or Southern California. But the heavenly planets, I mean, that's really good, heavenly, right? So that's why there's a problem there. So therefore, better to be here where there's a mix-up of problems or you could say of happiness and distress. And although we may be although we are in Southern California, of course we shouldn't be in the consciousness of being in Southern California. We could be in the consciousness of being in Vrindavan, but we can still see all things in relation to Krishna, right? All right, Krishna is providing the beautiful, right, the rays of the sunshine. Okay, well, take that as an opportunity for good Harinam weather or good book distribution weather, or just whatever. You could see it. I am the sun, right? Krishna, or the ocean, or all these different things, or just that this is a huge tourist spot. It's amazing, actually. Devotees could go to Balboa Park. They've been going to Balboa Park for like, I don't know, a year now? Or how long has Vijay Prabhu been here? Because when Vijay Prabhu got here, that's when they had started attacking Balboa Park. Violently attacking it. But, like, every day, practically, of the week, they could go there and distribute like hundreds of dollars worth of books, like getting close to 1,000 every day. And La Jolla and Balboa Park, those are the same spots. I mean, so it might be a sense gratification capital of the world. It is one of them. There's many of them, and there's other ones that are much grosser. So San Diego seems to be a bit more of a semi-sattvic sense gratification capital of the world, but we should use that as this is a great preaching field, right? Instead of, all right, here I am, Southern California, let me, be like all the other guys out there, right? Enjoy, right? Forget about Krishna. So we have to be careful though, so. All right.
One follow-up. Vijay said he had his best year ever.
Yeah, Vijay Prabhu loves Balboa Park. He says that
all his years in distributing Balboa Park last year was his best year.
That's very good. It was unknown gem to Vijay Prabhu and the other devotees. Prabhupada really liked that park, actually. Prabhupada said when he went there, when the prasadam distribution was going on, the book distribution, the Harinam, Prabhupada told the devotees, this is in the Leelamrita, he said that the festival was so nice. He said, you should have one like this every day. So...
All right. Shura means one who cries out to Krishna, and Ashura means one who doesn't cry out to Krishna?
Sura's demigod, Asura's demon, but the characteristics, one of the characteristics are one calls out, one doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, Jai.
Okay, Vijay, Krishna Prabhu?
From Zoom.
Yes.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. My question is related to the purport to text 17.
Yes.
Where I find that the demigods hand over to the Supreme Lord whatever is offered to them in sacrificial performances, end quote. So, based on this, my question is, if I am a disciple and I have a guru, and I have to hand it over to my guru what is offered to me, then the obvious question which follows is, how will I maintain myself?
He'll have to give you some back to maintain yourself. Well, there was one disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura. He was a householder. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura had many great disciples. You could read about their biography in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava by Bhakti Vikas Swami. It's in the 3rd volume, but so many wonderful disciples he had, very qualified, anyways, wonderful. So he had one of them who was who was unique. What he would do, he had a wife. I don't know if he had children, but he had a wife, and he said he would work and he would get his paycheck and he would give it all to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ṭhākura, like everything. And then he would insist, Guru Maharaj, this is yours. You take it, the whole thing. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, okay, thank you. And then he would give some back to his wife, to this devotee's wife, so they could maintain themselves. So, so you could say that, that's a rare circumstance, but of course we should give. Those who work for money should give towards the cause of Krishna consciousness as much as possible, because that is the real benefit. They'll get the real benefit of working that way. Otherwise, there could be some entanglement there. But we may not give everything absolutely, means like every single last dime of our paycheck, right? But we should be in the mood that whatever I make, whatever I have, it all belongs to Krishna. It's all an offering. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, my house, my wife, my children, everything is yours, Krishna. It's all an offering to you. And similarly, we should see everything as offering to the spiritual master. By doing that, or if we're able to do that, then this is what it means to be a devotee, to be able to do this, to give everything to the spiritual master. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll give the whole paycheck. Prabhupada said half, 50%. It's a high tithing. In Mormon, in the Latter-day Saint Church, Latter-day Saints and other Christian groups, I don't know, 10%, 20%, something like that. So 50%, which is a high mark. So I guess that means that whatever they make, and is it Druidic, whatever they make, they pay their rent and they cover their expenses of food and all this type of stuff, and then whatever they have left over, 50%? Or is it just literally everything 50%, and then if they can't do that, then they should take sannyas? No. If they can't do that, then maybe they should simplify their life, right? Or they can make more Lakshmi. You have two options: make more Lakshmi or simplify your life. And sometimes I've met devotees who say they don't have faith in any particular temple or movement. It means a particular temple. And I said, you must have faith in some temple. You must have faith in some group. And they say, okay, yeah, I have faith in one. I say, well, you should give to them, or else it's just entangling. You say, I have no faith in any of the gurus. I can't give a dime to any of them. Well, you better give this is the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. You should give something to someone. You have to. That's the duty of the householders. If someone is in a household ashram, they have to give. This is the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and it's not a brahmachari trying to squeeze, some charity out of anyone. Like, for the benefit of the householder, they have to give. And if you say you don't have any faith in the gurus, you better find a guru you have faith in and give, or to a project, or else it's entangling. And for those of you who are sitting at your homes watching this is a message to you. It's not a message to not you, it's a message to you, whoever's listening. The whole class is a message to you, but the anonymous watchers who are sitting on their couches, it's also to you. All right. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.